Robertson.
Chair, I too want to respond to some of the comments made by Heather Roy. In particular, I want to respond to her suggestion that this is somehow or other an attack on democracy that comes from the current arrangements that students have. Well, the current arrangements that students have allow students to have control over student affairs. They're allowed to elect their representatives. They're allowed to approve a budget that includes what services will be provided. And the situation that we'll be left with now, if this bill passes, is that the decisions about those things will go out of the hands of students and will go into the hands of administrators within tertiary institutions. So how's that promoting democracy? How's that helping students have control of student affairs? Because the word choice has been bandied around a lot by the promoter of this bill, and on the very rare occasions that National Party members have got up to actually speak about why they're supporting this bill. Well, choice means nothing if it's not informed choice. And that's what Chris Hipkins was just talking about. Informed choice about whether to join a students' association would see the amendment in my name pass, because it would allow student associations to communicate with their members. It would allow students to actually be aware when they arrive at a tertiary institution what services are on offer, what is the advocacy that a student association provides. But instead, the real agenda of the promoter of the bill is to destroy students' associations for political reasons. So it's not actually about choice. Because if it was about choice, if it was about real choice, then information would be able to be provided to students so that they can actually make that kind of informed choice. So there's only one person who's responsible for student associations and institutions being faced with transitional difficulties. There's only one person responsible for an attack on democracy, and that is the member in the chair, because she's the one who's promoted this bill. It's all very well to attack the Labour Party for having delayed the passing of this bill, but there would be no danger to student associations if the bill hadn't been put up in the first place. It's righting a wrong that isn't there. It's an ideological attack on the rights of students to organise themselves and decide what services they are going to get. And instead, institutions will be in a situation where they will be making their mind up about that rather than the students themselves. I was fascinated to hear Heather Roy say that she wanted to return to the original intent of students' associations, so I presume she'll be advocating for lady vice presidents and ports to be served after all meetings. Things have changed. Students' associations are different entities now. They're the provider of professional services. That's why all bar two institutions came to the Select Committee and said, please don't pass this bill. Because the institutions know that as time has worn on, students' associations have become even more important in the quality of education that is delivered in tertiary institutions and in the well-being and welfare of the students at those institutions. And so this bill, in fact, takes away choice, takes away democratic rights from students, and hands on to the institutions the decisions about what kinds of services students will have. Mr. Chair, I also want to refer to the question around how this relates to polytechnics. And I have in my hand here a letter from the Student Association of Nelson Marlborough Institute of Technology. And they've raised the concern that the commencement date and the transitional provisions, which we believe should be expanded, don't actually take into account the situation for polytechnics. Heather Roy said, there's months before universities get going. Well, that might be true. It's certainly not true for polytechnics. And it's all very well to have in the transitional provision something for polytechnic students who are part-way through a program. But students will be starting right away from the 1st of January 2012. And I look at the letter here from the Nelson Marlborough Institute of Technology students. And what they're saying is that in actual fact, enrolment forms and invoicing for 2012 have already been generated by the institution. So here we are, we're in a situation now where the institution's already getting itself ready, and this bill comes along and causes huge drama for them in that. So the associations themselves are going to have to change constitutions. A number of the Institute of Technology and Polytechnic Students' Associations have quite different arrangements from universities because they tend to have closer to their institutions in some cases, but they also have constitutional arrangements that gives them independence. All of that's trampled on by this bill coming in this way. And Heather Roy in her comments said, well, I was waiting for NZUSA to come to me. And I do know that they have been lobbying for some considerable time, not only ACT but also the National Party on this. Mr Chair.
Keith Locke.
Thank you, Mr Chair. The Green Party does support the amendment